This knowledge clip is about new research material concerning the Dutch Brexit policy. So if you're searching for a topic for your thesis, this might be of interest for you. So stay tuned. In this knowledge clip, we will tell you about the Dutch Taskforce and the primary sources and how you can use those in your own research. We have interviewed the members of the Dutch Brexit Taskforce, gaining a unique insight in their work and the work of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Our collection of primary sources is available to students and researchers of Utrecht University. As you know, at the end of January 2020, the United Kingdom left the EU. This was only possible after nearly 5 years of negotiations between London and Brussels. On the EU side, the European Commission headed the negotiations, and the European Parliament also had its share. But considering the national interests involved, for example, fishery or the Irish border issue, the member states themselves stayed on top of Brexit too. Some of them, including the Netherlands, had their own task force. The Dutch task force was charged with coordinating the Dutch policy and interests in the negotiations. For example, it collected the interests of the different ministries, prioritized those, and communicated that to the Dutch permanent representation in the EU. Moreover, the task force kept the Parliament up to date, giving technical briefings, for example. Let's now first go into the background of the Brexit negotiations before we'll tell you more about our project.
First, let's go back in time a bit to June 23, 2016, when a 52% majority voted to leave the EU in the Brexit referendum. Article 50 of the Treaty on the European Union, the article that deals with the withdrawal of a member state, was triggered in March 2017. The negotiation process was set in motion. First came the withdrawal agreement, which included matters like citizens' rights, border arrangements, and monetary obligations. It was rejected by the British House of Commons several times. Time became scarce since Article 50 states that the EU treaties cease to apply to the leaving state 2 years after triggering the article, unless both parties agree to extend this period. A transition period was built into the withdrawal agreement, which allowed time to negotiate a new relationship. The EU-UK Trade and Cooperation Agreement consisted of, for example, agreements on fisheries, trade, and judicial cooperation. It was signed on December 30, 2020, just 2 days before the end of the transition period. The departure of the UK brings some challenges for the Netherlands, with the UK being a major trade relation and a political coalition partner for the Netherlands in the EU. The UK shared many viewpoints with the Netherlands, especially in economic policy. This means that the Netherlands now has to look for new partners to protect its national interests. Another challenge for the Netherlands at this moment is that not all aspects of the Brexit agreement have been implemented. Although the task force was formally dissolved in the summer of 2021, after almost 5 years of being active, a select group of people is still working on the Brexit. Of course, this also affects the private sector.
Hello, my name is Marloes Beers. I'm working at the University of Utrecht as a researcher and as a teacher. And these are Laura van der Knaap and Anna Koenig, both MA students at our master program International Relations in Historical Perspective. And Laura and Anna, they worked on the legacy of the Brexit task force. And I would like to ask them some questions. So Anna, could you please inform us about the structure of the task force?
Yes, so the task force was part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but it was actually an interministerial task force. So there were also members from other ministries, and it was there was a lot of fluctuation. So sometimes members left and new members came on board to this task force. And in 2017, for example, it consisted of 10 people. And what is very special about it is that it was an ad hoc organization, and it stood out. It stood out of the normal hierarchy in the ministry, which is very stiff, and it had a direct line to the Director General, and this made this task force very efficient.
Yes, that makes it really a very special committee, huh? Especially because I believe there were even some people from the work floor who could get a very easy entrance to the minister, was it?
Yes, true. Yeah, they could jump a lot of hierarchy lines because they were standing out of this whole organization.
Yeah, and it makes it so interesting to do research on. So, so I really understand why you're so enthusiastic about this research, but maybe you can tell us a bit more about this. Why is it so fascinating, Laura, to go into this research?
Well, first of all, you get a really unique insight into the work of the task force, which is something that normally you never get. So you get the chance to we got the chance to actually talk to the policymakers. Secondly, it was so interesting to learn about the decisions that were made behind the scenes of the Brexit negotiations, because to me that made everything a lot clearer. And we hope that the students feel the same way when they read the transcripts.
I'm absolutely certain about that. Anna, can you tell more about how did you do your research?
So in total, we interviewed 9 members of the task force. And before we interviewed them, we created a long list of questions, of interview questions. And to keep an overview, we divided them into 5 different themes. 3 of these themes referred to the work of the task force and national policy. And the 2 other themes referred to the EU side of the negotiations. And these 5 themes were internal organization, focal points of Dutch policy in negotiations, national policy, and then the 2 other themes that referred to the European side of the negotiations were the relation with the European Commission and also the European Parliament, and last but not least, the relationship with other task forces from other member states.
Whoa, so this is really a very broad field that you have been doing research on.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, interesting. And that makes me question, Laura, what can we expect from the answers?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, you get a really unique insight into the way the task force worked, and more broadly into the way a ministry functions, because usually that's really obscure. And secondly, the interviewees all had really interesting things to tell us. For example, they gave their perspective on the Article 50, but also they elaborated on the Dutch priorities in the negotiations. So if you want to know exactly what they said, you should really read the transcripts.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Good idea. And then I am wondering, and I think students and researchers are wondering as well, what kind of research questions can we ask based on this material, Anna?
So one example question, it could be how the Brexit changed the power field within the European Union now that the UK has left. In the near future, but also in the years to come. So there could be analysis for different time frames. And also one could do more research about how different task forces work together, so task forces from different member states, and in what way they were involved with the European, and in what way the European institutions were involved in this work. And and another example could be in what different ways the EU negotiation strategies worked or can work. And this latter question is particularly interesting regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, because a global pandemic, obviously, where you cannot meet up, has a great impact on how negotiations go. But these are just examples, and I would definitely say that our transcripts and the research we conducted, they leave room for a lot of questions to come up. So, yeah.
Wow, fascinating. I think that everybody now wants to start off immediately with his or her research. But Laura, where can they find all these new materials?
Yeah, to access the transcripts, they just have to go to the Yoda database.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. It's very informative.
So to sum up, we conducted 9 interviews with the members of the Dutch Brexit Task Force that is part of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And these transcripts are available for you to use in your research or perhaps in your thesis.
So, are you an Utrecht University student or researcher? Please contact Marloes Beers and go to the YODA database to access the transcripts.
Yes, I'm very much looking forward to hear from you and your research question. So don't hesitate to contact me at the contact details that are here.